Hello and good morning. Welcome to Morning at NTV. This is Everyday Life and my name is Idris Matu. Now, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence still continue, but they will be ending on the 10th of December. Now, continuing the conversation, I have a guest from Lutheran World Federations who is here to talk about how to stop impunity against GBV victims. Miss Betty, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
How is the morning?
The morning is good.
Now, tell us about LWF.
Lutheran World Federation is a humanitarian organization.
Yes.
Working to meet the humanitarian needs of refugees and communities affected by conflict. And we support the needs of refugees in the different refugee settlements in the eastern in the southwest,
yes.
That is in Ramwanje in Kamwenge district, in the northwest, that is in Jumani, Moyo, and in the north in Lamuo.
Yes.
And we implement multi-sectoral programming, including water and sanitation, protection, livelihoods, and community services, and providing refugees with non-food items. Yeah.
What's the status of gender-based violence in that region?
Gender-based violence in the refugee setting is still a reality, and the prevalence is still very high. But unfortunately, it is taken more as an integral, part of gender relations, especially with communities that are coming from the DRC and the South Sudan. Back in their countries of origin, gender-based violence is very rampant and in most cases accepted as, a normal society norm, yes.
And then when they come here, they feel they are untouched. They don't face, the perpetrator don't face justice. And that is what LWF is coming out to say, that wait a minute. These people who commit such violence against women have to face justice. How have you been doing that?
In Uganda, we do not accept gender-based violence, although it is happening, either in the rural communities or in the refugee settlement.
Yes.
So when we receive new arrivals, refugees coming, we conduct sensitizations and let them understand the laws of our country. Because it is, accepting gender-based violence against women and girls breed the culture of impunity. So we let them know that if they commit the offense, they will face justice. So we have our social workers in the communities, in the refugee settlement, who engage continuously with the refugees, sensitizing them on the rights of women and girls, and also letting them know that if they commit offenses, these are the repercussions. So even with that, we still receive cases of, for example, sexual abuses or defilement or rape of women. And LWF being the main IP for protection in the settlements where we work.
Yes.
We do have referral pathway, and we do not work alone. We have a number of organizations on ground that we work with, but we document the cases. We do the case intake, and then within the case management, we ensure that the survivor receives redress of the problem. We support the survivor to access the police, report the cases, and make sure that the perpetrator is arrested. And the perpetrators, we do what our legal staff perform as case conferencing with both the survivor and the perpetrator. And in that process, the perpetrator get to understand in depth, in detail, the magnitude of the offense EOC has committed and what the consequences would be. So in that case management processes, we also support the survivor to access legal redress. So you find that in the refugee settlements, there could be, challenges in terms of the survivors having, let's say, the money to pay for legal representation. So we come in and fill the gap.
Oh, you do pro bono? pro bono work for them?
Yes, we do that. And ultimately, the interest is to ensure that survivors of sexual gender-based violence, you know, receive the support they deserve. Yes.
What does the law say against perpetrators, these victimizers? What are the consequences?
This is a capital offense. There is no negotiation of, let's say, rape or defilement. We have had cases in the communities and also with the refugees where parents tend to try to settle the issue out of court. And especially the South Sudanese have the tendency of using their traditional court system where the elders, you know, oversee and dialogue with the families involved and settle it exactly out of. But we are working to ensure that ultimately the legal processes are adhered to. Because sometimes even the traditional courts that the South Sudanese refugees tend to use might be biased. They might be protective of the perpetrator and inflict more, you know, damages to the survivor. Because, you know, we are working with communities that is really a gender stereotype. Yes, their culture tend to have a lot of benefits toward the male, and then the female on the other side of, you know, exactly.
Oh dear.
Yes.
You know, it's such a pity that gender-based violence is still a thing, even in 2017, because we've moved a long way from such behavior. But again, I want you to explain to the viewers today who are watching, what are the consequences? What does the law say? What does the act entail when you are caught and you are a victimizer? What are the consequences?
The consequences is that you go through the legal processes of being tried, and if found guilty, you are prosecuted and given penalty. And being a capital offense, the penalty is quite heavy, you know, and that is why we ensure that the chief magistrate are able to access the survivors. We have cases in, for example, in Moyo's program where the district does not have a complete judicial system. So we ensure that we fill the gap by bringing in legal aid support so that survivors are able to interface with the legal processes.
Well, if you have just joined us, we are talking about ending impunity against GBV, which is gender-based violence. We are saying no. And Lutheran World Federations is there to protect you. If you are a victim, seek guidance. And Betty, how do these people seek help from LWF?
Survivors?
The survivors.
As I said earlier, we do have referral mechanisms where, through sensitization and awareness raising, the entire community are made aware on what to do in the event that you fall a victim of sexual violence. So they know where to report. Within the communities, there are structures. We have the LC structures and also the community-based structures that are working with humanitarian agencies.
Well, Betty, because we're running out of time, the campaign is ending on the 10th. How is that LWF ending it?
In the refugee settlement, we do have a lot of activities that we have been running. And LWF is ending it by giving a stronger message that we must end impunity for gender-based violence. Because this is one of the issues that has made gender-based violence a vicious cycle. Because with impunity, you know, the violence against women continues. So our message is very clear. And, you know, the theme for this year is also male engagement, engaging men and boys in the safety of women and girls. So we are ending with that strong note that as we engage the men and boys in the safety of women and girls, in the prevention of gender-based violence, we must make sure all barriers that affect women and girls from accessing justice must be broken down.
Well,
impunity must be dealt with so that everyone recognizes and appreciates that if you have the potential or someone perpetrates violence, that person must meet justice.
There are consequences as well.
Yes.
Saying no to gender-based violence and end impunity against women who are suffering out there. My name is Idris Matu. Stick around. We are coming back with another interview. Good morning.